that mindfulness and understanding that all things pass. So this understanding, a lot of times, right, we get caught up in these kind of what I call like a trap, right, where we, my life sucks. I'm stuck here. I'm this or that. All things pass. I like to there's a little metaphor I was thinking of the other day. Anything from a bird, let's say, to a coin in your pocket. Think of you're outside and you see a beautiful bird come flying by, and you're looking, it's a beautiful thing. It's becoming, right? It's coming into my vision in my life. And maybe it lights on a telephone pole or something like that. And you make eye contact with it. It's kind of this cool thing, right? And then all of a sudden its attention goes and it flies away, right? So that's becoming, right? It arrives and it flies away. A coin in your pocket, right? I do work a month or 2 weeks ago in anticipation, hard work with my hands so that I'll get a paycheck, right? The paycheck hits the bank account. It arrives, right? And then I got some coins in my pocket and see some shoes or a record or a book or whatever, and I want to buy that and I have to part with that. That's a minor form of suffering, right? Letting go of that, but you get something back. If you magnify that into bigger things like house, job, family, mortality, right? All things come, all things arrive, and all things pass. Yeah.
Welcome to the Casual Temple. This week we welcome Joe Singleton, who's our guest today. Joe is multi-talented. He's an author, editor, publisher, tarot card spinner, rockhound, and lapidary artist. He's also the co-owner of the Local Stone, a crystal, tarot, and chakra jewelry boutique in Galveston, Texas. Joe's literary journey spans from exploring existential philosophy to venturing into the spiritual realms of the Buddhaverse, all in pursuit of the ancient wisdom of know thyself. Joe, I'm so happy to have you on the Casual Temple.
Thank you, Marilee. I'm super happy to be here. Let's have some fun tonight.
Yeah, me too. And I know we're definitely going to talk about your book. You were so kind and you sent me a copy of it. It's really wonderful. I had a chance to read it all in one day. It's such a great, my takeaway from it, kind of an overview, is it's a great introduction to the concepts of like Eastern Buddhism and like kind of modern philosophy mixed in. You drop some philosopher names in there, which is cool, and do some comparisons. So yeah, and I think it's just like a really nice conversational style. I feel like it's like I'm sitting next to you and we're kind of having tea and you're just kind of telling me all about like your thoughts on Eastern Buddhism. So it was very cool.
Well, I love to hear you say that, because that were exactly my intentions with the book. And it's just, it's music to my ears as an author. When you work on a book, it's a long, hard, lonely journey road.
Yeah.
And to hear, I've got, I've had a few reviews. The book just got published, right? And people have said that, they're reading it in a day, and it's opening some minds to some new things and things like that. And that's what I've always been about. My background is in philosophy. And I was on a project, that as an editor, and the whole goal of that was to help people understand philosophy that don't want to read thousands and thousands of dry words and academic styles. So I like to think that I did all that hard work, and I'm just trying to make it easy to bring out. So that's beautiful to hear you say that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so happy that you made the effort and you wrote it, and it is such a big undertaking, and congratulations. So that's really cool. So kind of how, we're definitely going to talk about your book, because there's a lot of really cool stuff in there. But just to kind of get the audience sort of acclimated to who you are, we tend to kind of talk about sort of a little bit of background on you, kind of like giving us an idea of who you are and like what were sort of the events that led to you writing the book, really, that you could pinpoint.
Very cool. Well, that is a long and winding road story, and I'll encapsulate it. Okay. I like to say it's been 3 years of intense writing and research in the book, and 57 years of living to get there. So it's
right.
I would have to say it started. I grew up in the MTV generation back in the 80s, right? And one night, probably I was around 14 years old, and I was watching a show called Monterey Pop, which was it's a movie about an old festival in the late 60s with the Rolling Stones and all that. And it ended up with the Who, right? And I ended up seeing it ends with Pete Townsend of the Who smashing his guitar, and there's drums rolling, and you see the Who. And when I was 14, I said, that's what I want to do. I want to smash my guitar. I want to be a rock star. So it all
Yes.
started out really wanting to be a rock star. And you know where that takes you down, through the 80s and through the 90s. And I played music for a long time. And then, rock star didn't work out. Wife, house, baby came along. And I spent 30 years in corporate America in healthcare technology sales and things like that.
Oh.
Raising a great son who went off to UT and got a degree and did great things. And then, a few years ago, everything kind of changed. Empty nest came along, and I found myself kind of free, fresh, and with time to write, I guess you could say, right? And I packed up all my stuff, moved out of Houston, bought me a boat, and moved to Galveston. I was going to fish my life away. But I started writing. I had time to write, and really got back into a lot of the old, who I was back when I was, 18, 19, 20, back in my kind of artistic exploratory days. So I always kind of considered myself an artist trapped in a corporate, person's mindset,
Mm-hmm.
And, I used to dabble in things like the tarot and the occult and stuff like that. And, I was able to kind of pick up on some of that stuff. I got back into reading tarot cards, and all that. And then very fortunately, in my mid 40s, I went back to college at UHD. I had a great professor there that I really liked. I studied a lot of existential philosophy. And then years later, about 4 or 5 years ago, she knew I was a tarot card reader, and she actually invited me to be an associate editor on her book. It was a book called Philosophy Wise. It's bringing 22 of the greatest philosophers of all time into kind of simple, easy, kind of what I tried to do with this book. And she made a tarot deck with that, right? A philosopher's tarot deck. So I got to see her write, publish, and what it goes through a book. And I said, you know what? I need to do that for myself. And one of my jobs doing that was to track down all of her footnotes and things like that. I heard some of your podcasts. I know you like to go down footnote rabbit holes, and I was down the ultimate one. And it was this book she had used. The Buddha was one of the philosophers that she used in there. And there was a book by a guy named Rahul Pola who wrote a book called What the Buddha Taught. Very simple little book. And I kept seeing these quotes from there. I said, that's a cool book. Bought it, read it. And this is kind of a mystical experience, right? This is how things just kind of bubble up in the universe. And I started really getting into that book. It's really just a treatise on the Dhammapada, which is the words of the Buddha, right? Kind of like in the Bible, you have the red letters. You got all this junk, and then you got the red letters of what Jesus said, which is really cool stuff. It's kind of the same thing. That's what the Dhammapada is. It's the words of the Buddha. And this is the origination of Dharma, and it really lit a fire in me that said, I'm going to write a book about this. I picked out about 8 or 10 quotes I knew that I really wanted to use. And then I found the karmic wheel of life, which really all came together. So it's been a long journey. I've done a lot of things. I've written a lot of books that will never get read. And finally, I have this theory that you have to really live some life and have some experience instead of trying to writing about something I thought life should be, or what I thought somebody would like to read. I finally had something inside me that was true and honest. When you get that, that's a beautiful thing. And that's the origination of this book. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, definitely. You can see sort of the culmination of your passion about the subjects that you write about. And yeah, what a cool story though. And you talk about being sort of MTV generation. I'm like I think one of the last years of like Gen X or whatever. And so I'm kind of like, I'm like, oh, MTV.
Yeah,
So,
it was very cool in the beginning. And then, it turned into a bunch of soap operas. So, and then I kind of forgot, a really huge part of that, I'm a jeweler as well. And through that process, I've reconnected with somebody I had been in love with a very long time ago. And we've gotten together and started this jewelry business where we go out and we actually pick stones and crystals out of the earth, and then we bring them back here. We cut them, grind them, shine them, wrap them in sterling silver, and sell jewelry. It's kind of an alchemical process that, you know, just kind of happens with a lot of things. So there's really a lot of things coming together for me late in life. I'm a late bloomer, so I'm one of those who enjoys and invites aging, because that's wisdom, right?
Yeah.
You know, I really wasn't ready until now, and I've got, you know, I feel like I've got 10 or 15 books in me, you know, to go. So it's kind of the beginning of a new journey. It's an awesome thing.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, just definitely into all sorts of really cool things. And wow. Yeah, thank you for taking us down that road of your life. That is very cool.
Yes.
So I know you talked about the karmic wheel of life, and I know that's like a big, obviously it's like a big centerpiece sort of to your book, but can you kind of give us like sort of like what inspired you to kind of write about that piece? And then yeah.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely, and it's really the spark of everything that this book came together. And, you know, as I started, you know, like I said, I had 8 or 10 quotes I knew I wanted to use from the Buddha, from the Dhammapada, but I started doing research into more modern thinkers on Buddhism, and some of the old bodhisattvas and things like that. And I came across this karmic wheel of life. And there's actually a neat little book out there. It's a quick, easy read written by the Dalai Lama. It's called The Wheel of Life, or the Karmic Wheel of Life. And it describes this. It's kind of like a mandala. You have a horoscope kind of wheel mandala behind you. It's the same kind of thing, where, from what I understand, the Buddhist monks back in the day, you know, they would go into their cave or their monastery or whatever to be, you know, clear in their thoughts and away from all of the rabble of the world, right? So they would put this mandala on the outside for the, you know, the common folks, the us people who, you know, and look at it and meditate on it. And it really is a, you know, in Western terms, we can look at it as something almost like Dante's Inferno, right? Where you have
Mhm.
these, where you travel up on these different sets of existences. This big wheel, it has a big kind of devilish looking guy around it. That's Mara, right? And on the inside, they have these levels of like what's called a hell being, or a hungry ghost, or a demigods and gods. And it's kind of that ladder of, you know, existence that we climb on this karmic wheel. In the very center is what really caught my eye. There's 3 characters in the middle. There is a pig, which represents ignorance and greed, and it bites the tail of a peacock, which represents desire and envy. And the peacock bites the tail of a snake, which represents anger and spite. And the snake bites the tail of the pig, and they're going around in this circle like a hamster wheel in the middle, right? And this one line kind of came to me, which said, I want to be just like you know. And it's kind of, we get caught in our cycles of life as either kind of one or two positions. Either we're trying to be like, emulate somebody else, or we once we get something, we want everybody to emulate us, right? And we're
Mhm.
all kind of caught in this circle of all chasing the same thing over and over and over. And that was really a big a vision for me, right? And it's really the spark that when that came together with some of the things I was coming with, I was like, that's the book right there. I've got 2 pictures in the book, and that's one of them, you know. So it's a very important concept, and it's kind of a mandalic overview in one side of this thing we call samsara, right? Which is the world that we live in. Um, and the idea overall, you know, Buddhism is kind of a hard sell in the West, because it's all about kind of letting things go, right? What are we trained and educated to do when we're young from growing up? Is acquire things, get as much as you can, right? This is the American way. This is the Western way. In truth, it crosses all cultural boundaries. In a metaphorical sense, we are all kind of caught up in this wheel. And you know, the whole idea, you know, what the Buddha did is, I went off of this wheel, right? The world doesn't make sense. It never has. It never will. If we can't change the world, then what we can change is ourselves, what's inside of us. So it's a really big picture in one mandala. It's hard to explain kind of all in that, but it was just one of those things that, you know, I know you like to talk about mystical experience, and that really, well, I've had a million in my life. I could tell you, I could spend an hour talking about those, but that one was really big for me, because it really opened my mind and encouraged me to dig farther and put this book together, which was kind of an awakening in itself, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's a very cool thing. And anybody who's interested in that, or if that piques your imagination, hell beings and hungry ghosts and demigods and gods and all that, and the pig, the peacock, and all that in the middle, check out that book by the Dalai Lama. It's called The Wheel of Life. I think it's only 110 pages or something like that, but it was a real eye opener for me. I'm also a tarot reader, right? And I find a lot of semblance between the, wheels are a big deal with me, right? The Wheel of Fortune, right? And the tarot. In the old, if you go back to the 1400s, the Visconti deck, which is the farthest deck they can trace back, the old Wheel of Fortune had kind of a guy in a noble spot at the top, and then a guy falling from grace, and a beggar at the bottom, and then a guy climbing his way to the top back to that. And it's just this big circle that goes around. So it ties in with a lot of things. It's universal. And like I say, it really, I really believe it crosses all cultural boundaries, whether you're in Beijing, China, or here in the USA, or in Mexico, or wherever you are. We all suffer the human condition together, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what it is in a nutshell, but it was really big for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, these concepts, like I wasn't like I'm kind of familiar with these concepts, right? Just by kind of existing. But yeah, they weren't like super like forward in my mind to where I understood it. But I'm so glad that in your book you kind of pull out these kind of bigger pieces to kind of talk about. Yeah, you definitely go through who Mara is and Samsara, and you
Yeah.
talk about the peacock and all of that. And yeah, so it kind of gives you a really good grasp of it. So now I feel like I'm a little more knowledgeable. So
Yeah.
I thank you for that. And something that was very interesting too. Now I know that your book is we want to savor some things for the book, but I'm curious about for in just how you described Dharma, because it my current practice is I look at a lot of like Jewish mysticism. I study the Kabbalah. So the Dharma was like really piqued my interest. And so how would you describe Dharma?
Man, that is a fabulous question and a huge encompassing question. And
Right.
once again, one of my things is I try to make things simple, right? And it's in essence, it's two things. First, it's a source of enlightenment, right? It's something that you can, when found, can really open your mind to new things, right? Second, it's a way of life. Once found and realized, it becomes a new kind of way of life to find what I call, how many times did I say peace, freedom, and happiness in the book? Probably way too many times, but that's the goal. Is we all want to find our peace, freedom, and happiness, right? We can. One of the things I tried to relay in the book was we do these things, whatever our job is, or this or that, and we kind of have this distant thought in our minds of, oh, if only one day, I could get here or achieve this,
Mm-hmm.
and everything will be easy and free, right? That's that kind of that distant, far off dream that we all have. That, and what anxiety really is the not really our ability. Just it seems to be always unobtainable. The older we get, it just stays in that background. Kind of finding that Dharma is a realization of finding what that is and bringing yourself closer to it, and that in itself is an awakening thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to, I wish I would have put this in the book, but I put this all on one page. If anybody wants this, scribeworkspublishing@gmail.com. I'm happy to send it to you. But it starts out with the three jewels of Buddha, right? The three jewels of Buddha, the Buddha himself, right? That's kind of that symbol for realization. I was never into Buddhist or Buddha. I would, like many in the West, I had a very negative connotation of Buddhism growing. I grew up in more of a Christian kind of mindset. And you always look at that and it's kind of weird, but one thing you can do, you can see a talisman or a Buddha somewhere, and there's just something very peaceful about it, right? He's always just kind of sitting there, and it's this peaceful thing. That's that kind of thing that draws you in. That's more of that enlightenment process, right? The second jewel, so the three jewels of Buddha are the Buddha. Number two is the Dharma. That's right. When we find the Dharma and we open our minds to these things, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, that's kind of the way, right? And that's the way between. And three is what we call a sangha. That's kind of finding what I call our Dharma bubble, or our Dharma vehicle, or our own kind of space, right, where we can clear all of the BS of the world out and breathe and kind of operate in our own space. Sangha goes back, it's a term where it's really a group of monks living in a certain community, just with their what they're into, right? Their meditation, their peace, and all of this kind of stuff. In our kind of lives, I translate it, we're all not, Buddhists in saffron robes sitting in the way. It's very different, right? We have to live our lives. We have our jobs and things like that. So I'd like to say we find our Dharma bubble, right? Our kind of our own personal little nirvana, you could say, right? So that's kind of that's what Dharma is. It's kind of an all-encompassing. It's a way to think about life and practice life that is very enlightening. You could ask that to 1,000 different people, and you might get 1,000 answers. But that's mine. It's a source of enlightenment and a new way to live, if that's what you seek.
Yeah, very cool.
Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I was, especially when you described it as a vehicle, or like the Dharma bubbles and the vehicles, and and like I said, I'm looking at Jewish mysticism and the Kabbalah, and they talk. There's a lot about the Merkaba, right? The Merkaba sort of being that vehicle, and it's pretty much. You can come at me, Jewish mystics, if I get anything wrong. That's fine.
It's the same thing in a different language.
It's very similar.
That's what there's a big term in Buddhism, which is called the great vehicle, right? All of the great bodhisattvas over time and all that. It's like this wheel. It's always there, right? The wheel of Dharma is always spinning. The wheel of enlightenment is always there. 99.9% of it, never see it, and we miss it. But when you find it and you jump in on that, you're in it, right? You're in the great vehicle. And this is understanding that we're not just here for 100 years and we do this or that this is an extensive, transient, transcendent kind of nature of ascension. It's a very big thing and a very big concept, and I believe the vehicle you're in mysticism is the same thing, just in different terms. There's many ways to God, right?
yeah, for sure. And I'm always like very I'm like, oh wow, yeah, because like all the different systems, they have kind of very similar concepts, and so I was like, wow, I learned a new thing about Dharma, and that's cool. So I appreciate you. Yeah. And there's something really cool that you said about sort of I guess kind of when you talk about clearing the space, but you said that we as humans are always seeking permanence out of impermanent things. Can you tell us about that?
Impermanence is really it's impermanence is what Dharma is based on, right? You'll see a lot of, if you look into anything, probably the first thing you'll see if you go on TikTok or look at Buddhism or whatever, something that's talked about very much is called the Four Noble Truths, right? That's on my sheet here. The Four Noble Truths are that we all suffer the human condition together. We can, I challenge anybody, if you look back on your life, we like to think everything's beautiful and all this stuff, but it's a lot more suffering that, we get a little bit of good stuff and a lot of hard work, and, that's it. So we all suffer together. Second is that all things pass, right? The third is that suffering itself passes too. The fourth is that mindfulness and understanding that all things pass. So this understanding, a lot of times, right, we get caught up in these kind of what I call like a trap, right? Where my life sucks. I'm stuck here. I'm this or that. All things pass. I like to there's a little metaphor I was thinking of the other day that I think is very cool. But anything from a bird, let's say, to a coin in your pocket, right? Think of you're outside and you see a beautiful bird come flying by, and you're looking, it's a beautiful thing. It's becoming, right? It's coming into my vision in my life. And maybe it lights on a telephone pole or something like that. And you make eye contact with it. And it's kind of this cool thing, right? And then all of a sudden its attention goes and it flies away, right? So That's becoming, right? It arrives and it flies away. A coin in your pocket, right? I do work a month or 2 weeks ago in anticipation, hard work with my hands, so that I'll get a paycheck, right? The paycheck hits the bank account, it arrives, right? And then I got some coins in my pocket, and I see some shoes or a record or a book or whatever, and I want to buy that, and I have to part with that. That's a minor form of suffering, right? Letting go of that, but you get something back. If you magnify that into bigger things like house, job, family, mortality, right? All things come, all things arrive, and all things pass. And we tend to think, that we want to make things permanent in our life, and we kind of push this passing thing away, right? We don't like to think about death or the end of this, or if I get married, a divorce, that this stuff happens, right? And this can either be a devastating thing that wrecks you for the rest of your life, or you just understand that from the smallest thing as something you see, fly by you, or a coin in your pocket, or somebody in your life, or whatever. All things run their course and path. And when we kind of put all three of those together and understand that they're all equally part of the experience, and there's a something calming about that, right? I don't expect things to be permanent in my life, right? I've got a saying in the tarot, right, where this happens all the time. I do what's called a first house and second house tarot, and I say, we all think, I'm young, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna get my career, I'm gonna meet my mate, I'm gonna buy my house, we're gonna have kids, and we're gonna come grandma and grandpa, everything's gonna be great, and that's a lie, right? 90% of the people I talk to in their 30s or 40, what happens when you get all that stuff when you're 35, 36, 37? You look around, everything sucks. This relationship sucks, or this house sucks, or whatever. This is not permanent, and that can cause a crisis, right? That causes anxiety, right? So we always got to know that something else is always coming, right? When we're open to that, it can make a huge difference in your life, from the smallest little thing to the biggest things. All things must come to pass. So this kind of concept of impermanence, it's if there's one thing you've got to get to kind of find the Dharma, that's the center of Dharma, right? Is that understanding that all things pass, right? Everything is in a state of coming, arriving, or going in our lives. And when you look at it from a kind of central psychological standpoint, how many things do you have going on in your life? Some of them are leaving, some of them are here, some of them are coming this way. And that's really what that big meditation at the end about. And that's all kind of tied into the chakras, right? The 7 chakras is balancing all that stuff and understanding that, yes, one day this will leave. If I'm meditating on my root chakra, right? What grounds me, and so there's some things I've got going on in my life that are very ungrounding, but I know they go, and everything comes around. And we think back on our lives, devastating things, good things that have happened, or whatever. It always seems to work out, doesn't it? We always fear the worst, like we think the worst is going to happen, but rarely does the worst thing ever happen, right? We worry 90% about stuff that probably never will happen. That's a big part of it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, it was definitely like a really good thing for me to meditate on and think about. And yeah, you're right. I used to have like catastrophizing. I think it was like a thing where I was like worrying about so many things in the future, and exactly what you said. And then I realized, like, oh my gosh, like I spent all that time worrying, and like 98% of the time, the thing I worried, it didn't come true. So
yeah. This is huge. I mean, I'm telling you, this is really what it's all about. And that all comes down to, and we get into some real deep stuff in the book, right? Which is understanding that all there really is right now, right? The past is a ghost, and the future is just like what I call a haunt, right? It hasn't happened yet, but it often haunts us. And there's something in the book I call the 30% rule, right? We're happy 33% of the time. We're kind of somewhere in the middle 33% of the time, and 33% of that becoming, arriving, and leaving part, right? That's 30% of it, right? And if we don't give our due to that 30%, that 30% becomes a hindrance to 98% of our life. It's like an equation, right? The smallest sphere of the little thing. What I find in the tarot a lot is little things that are stopping somebody from becoming what what this whole book is really about is what my heart tells me to do, but I don't allow it to do because I've got to do the X, Y, and Z, right? What the world tells me I have to do. And that's a big thing. That's a big step for anybody. That's what this book is all about. We're all in the same boat. This is the human condition, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, definitely well explained and great examples. So thank you for that. There's also another concept, and I'm very big on it, so I'm going to quote you. It's like kind of the reason I even started this podcast. But so another concept you said was all true answers rest within ourselves. So what does that mean to you?
Indeed, that's the core and essence of my journey. It's the core and essence of this book and everything. Apollo, right? Let's go back to Greek mythology. Apollo, who you do a lot of reading and research on magic and alchemy and all of that stuff. Apollo is the same person as Hermes, right? Who is the same person as Thoth, right? The winged god. Mercury, right? Messenger of the gods, scribe of the gods. Apollo went on a journey. He was a seeker, right? And like many of us who travel these spiritual realms, we want to know what that one question, what is that one special question? What is the meaning? What is the purpose? What is the essence of life? Well, Apollo had many means, and he went on this big journey, and where he ended up was the Oracle at Delphi, right? These were kind of like the three witches who were boiling the stuff, and they would tell, they would say to the king, you're going to win this battle, or you're going to lose. These were big decisions were relied on the Oracle at Delphi, right? This is the ultimate Oracle. And what he found there was the answer to it, and it was simply two words. It was know thyself, right? We let the world define us, Marilee. We're from the minute we're born. The book starts out with a baby being born and talking about reincarnation and this thing about Mara and Samsara. Where it's a world where the sin of any author is to lose your audience in the first 30 pages. The first part of this book paints a very dark picture of this world, but really the way it's set up, forwards is backwards. We all wonder, like, no matter what side of the fence you fit on, if you're into politics, it's like, how do these people get into, how is these people, these are the dumbest people. I mean, can't they see, so the world kind of turns us backwards and turns us around. Down here in the South, I don't know, y'all have the Pacific Northwest, but at birthday parties when we're kids, we have what's called a piñata, right? It's a little animal or something filled with candy, and they put a blindfold and turn you around, and you're holding a bat and you're swinging at nothing and all that. That's kind of how we are dropped into this world, right?
Right.
The term know thyself, or that kind of thing, is to bypass what we have in there, the 5 hindrances of skepticism, right? The world teaches this is how the world is. Kind of opening our mind and opening our minds to ourselves, finding out who we really are inside. That's the key to finding whether it be God or whatever you're looking for. The key lies inside of us. In Buddhism, there's it's called the seed of Tathagata Garbha. Now that's a long word for what some people call the seed of Buddha, right? It's that little light within us. It's a seed within us. Once we find it, we cultivate it like a garden. Cultivate that seed. When you light that up, that's Dharma, right? That opens up, and it's self-enlightenment, right? Finding our path. I know I talk about the tarot a lot, but there's so many that what the tarot reveals is what's inside that people really feel, what your heart really tells you. Opening that up into the world, finding your experience, whether you be artistic or whatever your art is. We're all artists in one way or another, right? Finding that art. Who am I? What is my essence? Opening that up and becoming that, right? That is to know thyself. It's enlightenment. It's wisdom. It takes sometimes years, 57 years to find. So, a lot of digging and footnotes and books that you'll never read, but they're all on your bookshelf, you know, and you read a few pages and it threw you over here, right? It's kind of that journey that we take, and I find that there's a whole universe within ourselves, right? And opening up that universe is a huge, huge deal. That's the best way I can say to know thyself.
Perfect. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, it's definitely something I has been central in sort of what I personally practice, and then what I'm hoping to do for people like listeners is to know yourself. Like a path to that is maybe, you know, going down the path of Eastern philosophy and Buddha that kind of help you kind of orient yourself. But even like the small things, like know thyself. Like I told my husband the other day, it was something like, I know that I'm not, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like, oh, I know I'm not going to do that. Whatever. Like it was like an activity. I was like, I know I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to
Yeah.
need to pay somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know I'm never going to do it.
Yeah.
I will just pay somebody to do it, or whatever the thing was. So not
And
pretend that I can.
in a way, it goes back to kind of that big idea from the pig fighting the
Oh,
pig and all
yeah.
that, which
Mhm.
is, you know, I that thought was, I want you to be just like me, or I want, you know, we just need to be us, right? That's what
Right.
we're so caught up with what everybody else, what we're supposed to do, that we don't find ourselves, right? We're not our
Mhm.
true authenticity, right? This is a big word in philosophy, authenticity, finding our authentic self. That
Right.
beautiful. You taught me something tonight. That's to know
Mhm.
thyself, is to find your authenticity. A lot of writers like Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, a lot of the existential philosophy talks about authenticity, right? Breaking out of the mold that the world puts us in,
Yeah.
and kind of coming out of our shell and becoming who we are. It can be a huge thing. That is the awakening. You know, the awakening starts now when you find that. It's a beautiful
Right.
thing.
Yeah. A lot of it, yeah, for sure. And a lot of it is shedding sort of exactly how you explained it, is like shedding the things you are not, right? To get to
Yes.
the things you are. And sometimes that's scary because you're like, oh, I thought I was a rock star. I thought I
Yes.
was, you know, like I thought
Yes.
I was gonna do that.
Yes. No,
But yeah,
shedding that, it's like an onion, right?
yeah,
Another way that has been described is the peeling of the onion, right? Where's the center of the onion? There's layer and there's layer and there's layer. It's almost like a transcendent, eternal onion, right? That we're unpeeling. The cool
hmm,
thing about Dharma, I was thinking about that today. I'm already thinking about volume 2 of this series, which there actually some things are changing, because enlightening just builds upon itself the deeper that you go.
right.
And I don't think there's really ever any into it. I think that's why we're here, right? Um, you know, Descartes said a long time ago in the 1500s, I think, therefore I am. And you know, I've been in a lot of philosophy. They almost could have shut the book right there, and that's it. You know, that's all we can really know, right? I am a thinking thing, and beyond that, I don't know. Everything's electric, right? We're electrically charged. Every vision we see, it's like a projector. You know, I was
Hmm.
thinking today, you look in one of those old projectors, it's like a bright light. I was looking at the sun today. It's kind of like that, isn't it? You know, we could be
Yeah.
looking into a projector. That goes into, like, you know, Socrates, the parable of the cave and all that kind of stuff. So it's an unfolding onion that we just find. You know, the more we enlighten ourselves, the more enlightened we become.
Hmm.
And then hopefully we enlighten the world as well along with us.
Right. Yeah, beautiful. You've uh you've been brought in like Plato and the cave and everything. That's so cool.
Well, Socrates, right? That we talk about that. It's hard to we really haven't talked about that first part of the book, and this is a hard thing. It was a hard thing for me to overcome. There's a few things
Mm,
in Buddhist terminology and Dharma, and one of them is the word ignorance, right? And part of that kind of thing about samsara, we're trapped in this wheel that we just go over and over and over. It's a form of ignorance, right? It's
mm,
non-enlightenment. Enlightenment is the unfolding of unenlightenment, right? Become from taking unenlightenment to enlightenment. That's enlightenment, right? This kind of track, Socrates, what, you know, way back in the day. I'm a big Socrates guy, right? You read Plato. I've got a book. It's about this thick of Plato's complete works. I think it's
wow.
1,700 pages. I'll never finish it. I was stuck on one page for 3 years one time. It took me that long to get past one page, right? But they had this contest back in the day, kind of back in the Apollo days, right? And it was who's the best philosopher of them all, and they had a contest. Socrates was the winner, and they asked him to have like a little speech or something. And what he said, this is what Socrates is famous for. He said, I am only the wisest among us because I realize that I know nothing, right? And it sounds like that's hard to comprehend, right? How can I know nothing and be the smartest guy? It took me a long time to figure that out. But if you read those dialogues, that's what somebody would tell me what good is, and they would start saying, well, it's somebody who has this and that, and well, what about a man who doesn't have this or doesn't have that? Does that mean he's not good? And he would turn them around until people just realize, we really don't know what this world is, what we're doing, and what our purpose is. 99.9% of us. So, that's enlightenment, right? It's the unbinding of our ignorance, and first accepting that maybe what I've thought all of my life is not the truth, right? That can be a hard thing to face. That you just said, it can be a scary thing, right? And that fear, that's what I was talking about, that little 5% of fear within us can stop us from doing so many things, right? From opening up our shell and becoming who we are. That's what Dharma becomes from us, right? It allows us to accept, in a way, our ignorance, right? Once I do that, I can't be enlightened before I first realize, wait, I've got a lot of enlightening to do in my life, right? So it's a huge thing to overcome, That's why that's why I tried to make this as easy and readable as possible for Western minds, because we're not trained to think like that, right? We're trained to think that I need as much stuff, everything a house, a car, a this or that, everything we get is like a small form of bondage. And the more stuff we get, the more bound we are. Learning to let go of things can be very hard, but it can also be very freeing and enlightening.
Yeah. Yep. That definitely hard for our Western minds. You got that down pat.
Especially this one, all of us. That's why my book, you say, sounds like a conversation. I love that, because everything is we, right? It's all, we're all suffer this stuff together, and just bringing a little bit closer, every day or every week, I get a little bit closer, or I can let go of this a little bit more. And I've got a saying, what do you got to lose? I mean, I tell a lot of people in tarot readings, when they're stuck on something and they know what it is, it always comes out what it is. And say, look, the answer is very simple. Either say no to something you always say yes to, or say yes to something you always say no to. Try it one time and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
And it can be that easy to overcome some really big things and find some really enlightening pathways in life. So letting go is a big deal.
Beautiful. Yeah. Definitely something I've learned recently that I keep I don't want to call it jinxing, but I have to stop saying I'm never going to do that, because invariably, like a year later, I'm doing that thing I said I would never do.
Yes, exactly. And that's kind of our ignorance, right? We have this thought of, no, I would never do that. And that's why I talk about samsara is kind of this backwards world. Like Mara is like this ruler of this hermit kingdom. I describe him as like a shell game guy, right? And we take one step towards him and he takes one step back. He puts this shiny thing in front of us and we grab at it, right? And then that withers and gets old and we don't learn our lesson. It burns us, right? And then there's another one over here and we grab on that and we just keep grabbing. And nothing is ever the answer. I always think, if I could just, once I get to this level of my career, I'll have this.
Right.
I've been there, I'll buy the boat. I can go fishing all I want. I bought a boat and I never went fishing, and I was still like missing something, right? It's never the answer. And sometimes that just chase, it's like this eternal chase. We're all chasing the same. It goes back to that pig, the peacock, and the snake. It's anger, it's spite, it's envy, it's desire, it's all of that together. We just kind of spin in this big circle, and really what the Dharma is all about, what the Buddha did, and everything, that whole story is just letting it all go, right?
Yeah. Very.
Ascension. That's ascension.
Yeah.
There are higher levels of ascension than this place that we live. We all hold on to it so dearly. But
Hmm.
I think it's almost like a little preschool or so. We got to get out of this and go up to the next level, right? That's
Yeah.
that's letting go. It's hard to do.
It is hard to do. Oh, yeah. Um, but and then sort of you kind of hit on some of the talking about some of the hindrances, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then sort of your meditations at the end of the book sort of kind of address that and assist with it. I've never heard of these before. So like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about the hindrances and the seven helpers,
I
but
would I would love to. It's the whole
perfect.
point of the book. That's I don't know if you remember in the book towards the end I put in big bold letters, read the Dhammapada
Yeah.
exclamation point,
Yeah.
right? It's all
Yeah.
in there.
Yep.
These are the words of the Buddha. This is what he said. And it's what's cool about Dharma, it's very simple. Okay. Everything has its opposite or its counterbalancing feature, right? So
Mhm.
he came up with these five hindrances, right? Which are kind of the five big ones that get us. They're lust, anger, laziness, skepticism, and angst, right? All of the things, those are those things that hold us back, right? That keep us from being our true or keep us chasing lust. I've always got to have this, right? So I'm always chasing this. How much time have I wasted in my life chasing this thing that every time I get it, it doesn't really bring me anything. It wears out. And then I want to go get a new one and start over and do it again. Um, there's those are the five hindrances. The seven helpers are kind of the opposite of that: awareness, intelligence, energy, joy, calm, concentration, equanimity. So, like a good thing for let's say skepticism, right? We talked a little bit about skepticism tonight, that kind of thing. Like the world keeps us kind of in this. You can't, nothing. I talk a little bit in the book about where science ends, spirituality begins, and where spirituality ends, science begins. They never quite get together. Isn't this the old magical thing you live about? Science and religion, everybody wants to bring it together, but it never can seem, because science cannot see beyond the physical things, right? And in
Hmm.
a way, spirituality can't really relate with the physical things. So you've got these two separate polarities, right?
Yeah.
So something like skepticism can be, if I find myself, skepticism can be related to a specific chakra. When we cycle through our chakras in our meditation, the answer or the fix for skepticism can be intelligence, right? I can open my mind to something I've always believed is no. What if that was yes and I opened it? I used to have this one philosophy professor, and he's always so afraid to watch what you're saying there. That's not correct, or you've got to be correct in every. And I would tell him, look, I'm not afraid to be wrong, right? I'm throwing this idea out there. It may be stupid or whatever, but what does everybody else have to say? Maybe we can find something new here, whatever, like expanding or opening our minds a little bit. So it's just kind of a way to look at, hey, when I look at something, some part of myself inside, and if it's something that I feel that has me out of balance a little bit, I just find the counterbalancing thing for that, right? Like for lust, right, is energy. So if I'm lustful for clothes or shoes, or for another person or whatever, I can redirect my energy. Speaking of the chakras, when we get that sacral chakra, that's our second chakra, right? It's probably the most complicated of all of them, because not only is it our romance and sexual, urges, needs, and desires, but it's also our creative urges, needs, and desires. And it's
Hmm.
also our spiritual intuition. Think about all of those things, right? In this one, you can spend a lot of time, a lot of extra rounds on your sacral chakra, right?
Hmm.
But if I'm, and I think anybody can attest to this at one point, I certainly can, is you can get caught up in lust in many ways, right? And it can take you to some dark places, right? No matter what you're doing, excessive amounts of lust are not a good thing in many circumstances, right? So I transfer that to creative energy, right? I transfer that energy to something creative. If I'm artistic, if I'm into, whatever I'm into, if I'm into banking or play in the stock market or whatever, you know, I can transfer some of that over there, right, and balance myself out a little bit. Rather than a big difference between the Dharma and say, like, you know, a Judeo-Christian religion is we kind of, you know, we get in these foxhole situations. Oh God, I've got to just get me out of this and we'll be okay, right? And putting hope on that. What I love about the Dharma, it's not like the Bible talks about these are sins, don't do it, right? And it pretty much ends there. Dharma
Yeah.
says, okay, this is sin. These are the five hindrances, right? Lust, anger. These are what they are. This is where they can take you. And here's how to balance that, where we kind of, rather than having to put all of our hopes and whatever in something we're not even sure is out there or going to help us, you know,
Yeah.
we can take charge of this ourselves. That's that seed of Dharma within. And Dharma, we are actually God within ourselves, right? When if I want to see God, I look in the mirror. That's Dharma, right? That's understanding that we're like you've heard this term, like we're one nerve in the finger of God out here in this physical world, right? If that's
Yeah.
true, then that means we are God. God is within us, right? There's a line I have in the book. If we want to see God, we need to look in the mirror. We want to see the devil, we need to look in the mirror, right? In essence, we're both, right? That's the
Yeah.
yin yang. It's both forces are interactive with each other.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Hopefully, I didn't go too round a big rabbit hole there. But that was
No, that was great. I like that you know, kind of brought it back again to what we were talking about, sort of like know thyself, kind of know who you are. It's sort of like all kind of combined together.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I like sort of taking charge. I do feel like that's where people are going to go in the future as far as like their spiritual path. Obviously like you said, I feel like the bigger religions aren't having the hold that they have had, and people are seeking something new. And I think that is going to come from each individual to kind of, you know, find what resonates and work it out. So
This
yeah.
is the essence of samsara, right? This is the
Yeah.
world we live in. It's our parents, it's our teachers, it's our educators, it's our boss, it's the president, it's whoever, right? It's we're
Mm-hmm.
conditioned, right, to these kind of these this almost like matrix of this is the boundaries that you live in.
Yeah.
You can go down a lot of rabbit holes and a lot of spiritual stuffs and paranormal stuff out there, but there's a lot of people are coming to this thought that we're almost bonded and we're almost kept. Our souls are like in bondage for some reason that we really don't know, being used for something. You know, you can go down that line. I don't like to go that far out there. I like to stay right here within ourselves.
Yes.
But that's really what this book is all about, is unbinding all of those little chains that we can, and then just finding more peace, freedom, and happiness in the world.
Mm-hmm.
This is freedom, right? This is freedom. Freedom is liberation. Liberation is wisdom. Wisdom is enlightenment. It's a ladder, right? That would go up. And that's really what this is all about. And just being able to find that and kind of go on that journey. Just, you had asked, what is nirvana? You know, that is just stepping on that first step of the ladder and seeing that there's a much bigger world than I have thought. That's nirvana, because that opens up our minds just a millionfold, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
that's part of the answer to that question. I'm glad we kind of got there, because it's many things.
It is many things. And I like that you said change, because every time so I like the tarot as well, and like the double card, right, is one of my favorites.
15D, yeah.
The big
what are those two people? What are they? They're chained to this altar, right? I call it's one of my favorite cards, and because I call it the devil is a blocker. That card represents fear. If you like the tarot, we should do a tarot show. Have all your friends over with wine, and we'll do.
Oh my God, I love it.
But that card I call a blocker, and that's overcoming your fear, right? That's the emperor is one of those blockers, kind of the heavy man on that, right? The 5 card, the old Pope, the Hierophant, right? That's that kind of Catholic priest standing there. These are blockers. These are things that tell us thou shalt not, right? I got as a personal card the other day the devil reversed, which is a beautiful thing, which means that's an unbinding, right? the overcoming of a fear, the coming into something new. So yes, I understand. I think that's where you're going.
Yeah.
Hopefully I didn't interrupt you. We were
No,
talking
that
about
was good. That was
card,
it.
but yeah, it's that goes way back with me. I have the 15D, I call him. He you know, the devil is a friend of mine. So is Mara. Mara is the devil, and I talk about this in the book. We should not look at the devil as our enemy.
Yeah.
The devil is our like. This is what we have to overcome to find that enlightenment. Right? He's there for a reason, to give us a bar that we have to jump over. Right? That's that fear, releasing that fear, finding a way out of that chain, and putting trust in yourself, and instead of some force that's binding you down. That's liberation. That's peace, freedom, and happiness. Right?
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
It is cool. Ugh. Yeah. I love that you walked down the devil. That's awesome.
I spent a lot of time. I saw Aleister Crowley. I used to use the Crowley deck a long time ago. I saw him in a dream one time when I was about 19 or 20 years old, and it was not good. It was one of those, what do they call that when you're in bed and you can't move and you're completely powerless
yeah.
I remember he said, "Look into the eyes of the devil," at me in a dream, right? And then I see, and there was something like, he's not ready, and boom, I was out of it, but it was a very real thing. I talk about, I just barely touch on dream yoga in the book. Volume 2 actually starts out with a dream yoga episode, a dream I had that was very powerful. It's the first 4 pages of the next book, and it's going to be something very cool. Dream yoga kind of takes what I talk about in the book. This is called meditation yoga, right? That's what this is. People think of yoga, and I'm doing, stretching and all this stuff. Back in the day, what the Buddha, the Dharma, this is meditation. This is mind yoga, right? All these exercises, cycling through chakras and meditations, thinking about the hindrances and the helpers as they represent our chakras inside of us and maintaining balance. That's mental exercise, right? One of the things I try to get into, it took me I don't know if you meditate, but it took me forever to find most people think meditation is go into a quiet place, dark, find a candle, close your eyes, and just, let the day go.
Right.
That meditation is more than that's a little bit part of it, but it's about working on what's going on. And so once you get there, now I can organize my thoughts, right? That's the place where we organize our thoughts. Then we get to that third eye and crown, and we can rest and be in, all that stuff. But it's a bit of work, as yoga isn't stretching today. It's, back in the day, yoga was originally called yogam, this is in the Bhagavad Gita, which is the practice of union with the science of the supreme. Think about that.
Awesome. Very
the
cool.
Science of the supreme. That's what we're talking about here. It's big stuff, man.
No little thing. Yeah.
No little thing. Yeah, no.
That's great. Yeah, thank you for walking through that. Yeah, I do. I've been doing a Kundalini yoga practice, and I'm very fortunate to have really good teachers and a community here in Seattle, and so it's very much something that, it's it's about the whole system as a human, right? You're combining with the supreme, so that's cool.
And if you want to talk about that briefly, that's really what the book. That's the big finish of the book, right? Is the 3 breaths of the 7 chakras meditation. So, as we go into our meditation, it's hard to. I don't know if you're a writer, but I thought, okay, I've got to write a mantra for a meditation. I've got it in my mind, but it's very hard to put in words what happens during a meditation, right? And it's that Kundalini snake, right? And that. All up and down our spine, we start with the root chakra, right? These are the things that ground us. And then we cycle up to the sacral chakra, which we talked a lot about earlier, that kind of creative part of us. Then we go to a lot of people call the solar plexus. I call it the belly. That's where our will is, right? We think about our will, past, coming, arriving, all of that kind of stuff. The heart is kind of the central point between the crown and the root, right? That's where those 2 things meet. These lower things are kind of our grounding principles. Then we get the heart, which is our courage and our compassion. People think it's love. It's a love, not so much love, but the heart is a lot about courage. That's our will to be able to overcome. In Dream, they talk about fearless heart, right? To be able to overcome these boundaries that constantly stop us, right? That's where our courage and our compassion come in. Then we go to our throat. This is where, I don't know if you read it in the book, but I have to really ease up to the throat because, I've kind of been known for having a big mouth for a long, you be careful what you say, right? This is probably more than anything, learning all of this is more for me, because what we say to the world is vastly important, right? It affects everybody that hears us, right? If we could look at a projector of ourselves during the day and some of the crap that we say, we would go, oh my God, did I really, so one of the cool things about cycling up that, awakening that snake as it rises is I think about, what did I say to the world in the past? What am I saying to the world now? How might that affect how I speak to the world in the future? This is how we can really change ourselves. Does that make sense to you? This
Oh,
this
for
is the
sure.
cycle of meditation yoga, right? Where this is mindfulness. It's all about mindfulness, right? That last part of the Four Noble Truths is the mindfulness, right? How we live our lives with this new understanding of what's going on inside of us. So our vocal communications to the world, that throat chakra, is very important. And our third eye, this is like the swords in the tarot, right? Our intelligence, our all of that kind of understanding and wisdom. I'm going to tell you something. It took me a couple of years to get there, but these days in my in the third eye part of my meditations, it gets very powerful. I meditate with my eyes open, and we're looking. Me and the Buddha are looking right at each other, and there is a transference there. I mean, you can feel it happening, and it's almost like a transfer of information. Many of the words, parts, and even chapters of this book that you read were direct energy transferred through that kind of third eye connection, and then the crown just takes you up to the spirit. So if you think of that whole process, we've gone from the very root of what grounds us in life, which is so important, to the very top of spirit, right? Which elevates us. When we go back to that part we were talking about earlier, of kind of where science and religions that never can seem to get together, in the Kundalini, when we experience and balance all 7 of our chakras, we're bringing all of those things together within ourselves, right?
Right.
What's bigger than that?
Yeah. What is bigger than that? Yeah.
Yeah, I know of nothing. It's a very powerful thing. And all along those lines, those 5 hindrances and 7 helpers, it's really good to know that and what balances, because it's really, if everything is right now, then we're a series, right? We're a series of things coming, things that have arrived with us, and things that are leaving us. I call that in the book when we start to see ourselves, I call it dharmic vision, right? This is a 3-dimensional prism, right? We see ourselves in this kind of 3-dimensional state of impermanence, right? Of everything always moving forward, right? We're moving forward, the things within us are coming and going and all that kind of stuff. That's how we can find a balance. When you cycle through, one of your chakras is out of balance, believe me, and rarely are those days when everything's all in unison. It's a beautiful thing when they are, but usually you kind of know here, all right, I've got some work to do right here. It can take a day, 2 days, 3 days, a week, 3 months, to get it back in order. But just having the ability to do that is a beautiful thing. That's what meditation is all about. And that's really where this book finishes, which is a basic introduction to that, right? And just helping people to find that.
Yeah. Yeah, you do such a great job. So I'm thankful that you ended it with meditation, because it is very important. So, oh wow, yeah. Thank you for going through the questions I had for your book, and yeah, just full of wisdom. And so I'm very, very honored. Thank you so much.
Hey, that is likewise. This is a fabulous conversation. It's a beautiful thing to be able to talk about spiritual things.
Yes.
Real spiritual things.
Yes, I love it. So I know you mentioned that you are putting together a tarot book, and it sounds like another companion book to this one that we're talking about. So can you talk more about that, or other projects that you're working on that you want everybody to
Yes,
know?
I'm torn. Maybe you can help me based on our
Sure.
conversation. I just recently I mentioned that kind of dream yoga incident, and I
Mm,
started volume 2 of this. This is originally meant to be a 3-part series, right? Um, and it's called Wheels of the Mind, volume 2 of Maradon Buddha Rise, and it's going to get very intensely. And I've got kind of a 3D vision of that whole process in meditation that ties in
mm,
with kind of personal experience, and it's going to be very that it's going to be a very cool thing, and get more into dream yoga and things like that. And then my tarot book it's called Tarot Clarified. I'm about third the way through it. I'm through the sixes right now. I've got to get 7, 8, 9, 10, the Knight, Queen, King, Page, Queen, King, and then I've got to do all 22 of the trump cards. But that's flowing like butter because I
mm.
do readings here at the shop, not daily, but I probably do 5 or 6, 8 readings a week, and it's just basically what I say in readings, and it's that it's designed to help people, kind of like this book, if you to really understand the tarot, you're always pointed back to the old magic stuff, right?
Mhm.
I got like the Eliphaz Levi and that kind of stuff, and that is all masked, hidden, and for good reason. They would get persecuted and killed if they didn't. But it's almost an impossible matrix to get through and really make any sense out of it. I did it
Mhm.
though. There's numerology, there's lots of things. So I
Yeah.
try to get rid of all of that kind of magic mumbo jumbo stuff and just put it in easy kind of terms, and kind of like in this, if you can know what 1 through 10 represents, and the 4 elements, right? Earth, air, fire, water, actually 5, and spirit. You can go a long way in the tarot, right? It's
Yeah.
all about movement. We call the tarot is the journey of the fool, right? It starts out with 0, the fool, the magician, the high priestess, the empress, the emperor, all the way around to, there's these chasms you cross. One is at the chariot, one is at the devil, and the tower. And basically, we're going from our personal development through the virtues, and then we get to the star, the moon, the sun, and all that. And that's finding our spiritual selves. So it's very in tune with this kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
one of those 2 will be the next book, and then one day volume 3 of Maradon Buddha Rise. So which one should I finish Tarot Clarified, or get going with volume 2? What do you think?
Oh gosh. Well, that's hard to say. I
Yeah,
I work on things all at the same time.
yeah,
So I'm probably not the best person to ask.
yeah.
I do love tarot. But
There you go.
I am interested in the was it dream yoga? I've never
Yeah, well, let
really
me
heard
tell
about
you. Let me
that.
let me give you a teaser. Okay, the first
Yeah.
4 pages. Have you ever, Marilee, had a dream where, like, you were falling or something, and you knew you're about to die, right? Right before you hit the ground or whatever happens, you wake up and your heart's racing and beating and all that kind of. Have you had that kind
Oh
of
yeah.
dream before?
Yes.
What if you had a dream and you didn't wake up before you reached the bottom?
That would be interesting.
That's the first 4 pages of Maradon Buddha Rise. It's going to be really cool. It's dream yoga is real. After that dream, I found out, and there's a line in that book. I've got a reference to it in my book, but it's reminding yourself that this is all a dream. Merrily, merrily, life is but a dream, right?
That's right.
Um, and it's when we can overcome certain fears in our dreams, it's very powerful, because then that translates to real life. Because we didn't even get into this. I talk about the dream within the dream in the book. This is a huge thing, right? Understanding that samsara is like a dark, heavy dream that we're having inside of this dream, which is our light dream, right? So we're kind of stuck in this dark dream within our main dream, the dream within a dream. But the point of dream yoga is to understand that this really is all a dream. And anytime something, when the stuff hits the fan, understand this is just a dream. It's cool. We're going to be all right, right? And
Yeah.
it's pretty powerful stuff. So
Yeah. Whew. Yeah. I remember you wrote that in the book. And for some reason I was thinking, because I'm a David Lynch fan. So it made me think about David Lynch and like all of his work. And I was like, that's another rabbit hole. But yeah, because he definitely explores dreams and the concept of like dreams within dreams. What does that mean? And Yeah. So a lot of correlations in what you were talking about for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know which book. I don't know, honestly. I'm sorry that you have to like work on two at the same time, but they both sound really good.
Yeah. I
Um,
think it's good. Right now it's volume 2. I'm like you though. It'll go back and forth, but
yeah.
you know, people
Okay.
love the tarot, so I got a feeling I could sell a lot of tarot books. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
really
yeah.
want to finish that book. And I'm very passionate about the tarot, right? I tell people I've been reading it for thousands of years. If it lies to us today, please let me know, because I will be free from the right. I don't know if you've ever done any of that, but reading tarot cards, everybody think, ooh, that'd be so cool. And I always think I did
Oh,
too, but
yeah.
it's exhausting, man. You get in and you get into people's lives, right? And it's
Yeah.
heavy stuff, a lot of tears, a lot. I mean, this is a very personal thing, when we see our lives. So I'd say the tarot, I'd say we experience life right through from our soul through our eyes to the action in the world happening upon us. It's like tunnel vision. What the tarot does when we sit down and start, I do a spiral draw, right? What you're doing is you're raising out of that and you're looking down upon your life, right? Almost like you're being raised up to a new level. And
Mm.
a lot of times, really, it's very simple. I'd call what I do practical tarot, right? The first house and second house usually represents, so what's been going on lately and what's potentially coming up in the future, and how do I cross this chasm, right? When people either have crossed that and it gives them confirmation, they feel great. A lot of times a reading like that happens and I feel like, should I even, it's like, give this guy money back, right? I mean, what am I telling? But it's that confirmation of understanding that
Mm.
other people see, oh my God, this is really what this is what I think it is, and I've got to make this move, right? My favorite card is the Two of Swords. It's the lady, she's got a blindfold on and she's
Oh,
holding two
yeah.
swords here. Do I go this way or that? Or the Wheel of Fortune, because the next card after that card always reveals something amazing, right?
Yeah.
Tarot's a very cool thing.
Yeah.
I think I'm
It's
going to finish Tarot Clarified. I think you
you're
helped me. I'm going to do it.
do it. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to anything that you put out because it's very passionate and very knowledgeable. So very cool.
Well, that's
Um,
awesome. I hope, it's on Amazon.com,
yeah.
it's my first published book, right? So anybody, if you go out and get it, blessings to you and your family for helping us on the journey. And I dream of a day when all I have to do is get up and worry about making jewelry and writing. I
Mm,
still have jobs. So
yeah.
we're working author. Anybody read the book, please go to Amazon and give me a review if you like it. If you hate it, go drop it off, I say, at your nearest resale bookstore. Either way is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Beautiful. Perfect. So definitely like check out Amazon for your book. Is there anywhere else that you want to direct people to kind of learn more about you and all the things that you do as well?
Our store is called, actually, our little jewelry store. If you're into chakra, tarot, crystals, things like that, our store is Local Stone. We're in Galveston, Texas. And if you friend us on Facebook or Instagram at Local Stone, I do photos and videos just about every day of jewelry that me and Noel make all day long, and we ship. And much of it has great meaning. And I see one of my thing came loose here, but we get a lot of crystals in Arkansas. We do a lot of rock hunting in West Texas, Big Bend area, New Mexico, but we just make beautiful stuff. This is my Master of Destiny necklace. It has all 6 elements of the tarot in it.
Whoa.
The ones in the middle are dark energy and high energy. Those
Yeah.
represent the front cards. So, and then of course, you can't do better than your big crystal that, it's there's a lot of, I was never a believer in stones and crystals having energy, but the more, we just made a run to Arkansas about a month and a half ago, and we dug some, we got some little ones, but we also bought some really nice chunky crystals, and we brought them all in the shop and put them on display, and the energy around here just kind of blew up on us. So it is real. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people who it makes people very happy and gives people a lot of good energy. So we're doing a lot
Yeah.
of cool stuff with that. And then, any specific questions, or you want me to send this thing to you, scribeworkspublishing@gmail.com. I'm happy to talk to anybody, along those lines.
Perfect. Okay, I do have one question because you brought up crystals. Of course, I love crystals. Have
Mhm.
you ever tried, because somebody suggested this and I've done it before, where you kind of sit with a crystal and you talk to it? Have you done that?
I have people come in here that do all kinds of things with crystals, right? They'll come rev.
Mhm.
I've got a selenite crystal ball where I do my tarot
Mm.
readings, and they'll have to clear it or charge it or whatever.
Right.
Um, Noelle, my better half, she could tell you all about that. But yeah, that is like a thing, that represents a lot of time. I think that, when I'm doing tarot readings, I say that the trump cards, right, represent what I call forces. Some people call them angels, spirit guides, or whatever. And Noelle actually turned me on to this a little bit, and I started thinking about, like, a lot of times those forces that we think are kind of some gods or some, it's our higher selves in the
Mm.
background trying to direct ourselves, right? I believe that connection between those, when you're talking to that, you're talking to your higher self through that crystal. Crystal energy
Yeah.
has that kind of transferent, multi-dimensional thing. And if you look at a lot of important places, I was just hearing some stuff last night. The pyramids at Giza, all of these, Chichen Itza, where we visited, Quetzalcoatl's pyramid down in Cancun, Mexico, and all that stuff. And you look at ley lines. Um, all of those places where those sacred grounds are, there's a common theme of quartz and limestone that go together. So quartz is a big deal. All those ghost hunters say high quartz, right? We're on a high quartz territory. There's lots of ghosts, so there's a lot of paranormal stuff happens. It's always in the mountains where the high quartz is, and man, do we love roaming up around there and digging for crystals in the mountains and stuff like that. It's a lot of great fun. But to
That's
answer your question, I believe, yes, I believe that when you're doing that, you're speaking to your higher self, which is a cool thing.
It is cool. Yeah. Wow. That sounds really fun too. Just going and treasure hunting for crystals. So that's really cool.
That's fun. Well,
Yeah.
and next time we go, our goal is to kind of get out more west. We've been as far as we kind of stopped at New Mexico, but we really want to get to Nevada and Arizona, and even
Mm,
up there near you. Y'all got a lot of cool obsidian spots, and
we
there's some
do.
in up there in Oregon. There's some cool rainbow agates that we want to get to one day. So maybe we can meet in the middle. We'll meet you at a mountaintop somewhere in Utah, and we'll go digging.
That'd be fun. Oh man, that'd be awesome. Oh, well, thank you so much, Joe. So kind of the final thing we tend to leave with is what are your very shared lots of words of wisdom with us, but is there particular words of wisdom that you would like to leave us with today?
There's a million, but if there's one, if you had to pin me down to one, when we talk about those five hindrances, right? One of those, and we talked a little bit about tonight, is skepticism, right? Open our minds, right? I like to say that my book is a mind opener, right? And to do that, it's a really hard chasm that we talked several times about the difficulty in crossing these chasms to overcome our fear to do that, right? Skepticism is that, kind of what we described earlier, that parent, that teacher, that whatever that was that told you this is the world and this is how you operate in it, right? But I do that, I operate in that world, but I still don't feel good inside. I still have anxiety or fear, or I don't feel, it's not what my heart, it's what the world tells me, but my heart tells me something different. When we open our minds to skepticism, when we open our mind to new things, say yes to something we normally say no to, or say no to something we normally say yes to. Give that a chance every once in a while, and maybe you'll find out something that can be very mind opening, that you had always said, no, I'll never do that. I'm going to tell you right now, I will never do that. I promise I'll never do that. And then how many years later now you're doing it, did you say?
Yeah, like a year later. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
a good thing, right?
Yeah.
That's crossing the chasm of skepticism. That's opening our minds kind of beyond samsara, right? This world that we're conditioned to live in. And it's all a dream, Marilee. This has been a dream, this conversation with you. I've had a blast.
Oh, well, thank you, Joe. Yeah, thank you for sharing your wisdom, and thank you for sharing and writing your book and your knowledge about tarot, so many good things. And yeah, I'm just very grateful that we chatted today.
Very beautiful. I'm glad you did. Go give me a good review at Amazon. If you get the book, enjoy it. And it's a beautiful thing, you know, all of us sharing together and learning and growing together. That's the seed within us, right? That we find the seed of Tatha Gata Garbha. Find it, light it up. Let's go. The awakening starts now.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Your support means the world to us. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please take a moment to like, comment, and share it with others who might find this content valuable. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more enlightening discussions. Your engagement helps us grow, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for being a part of the Casual Temple community.